What's going on, boys and girls? What's up, world? Austin John Plays here, and today we're going to be talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield and not having all of our Pokemon. Right after the Nintendo Treehouse presentation at E3 2019, Twitter literally exploded with the hashtag #BringBackNationalDex. This was in response to what Masuda said in regard to you're not going to be able to bring all of your Pokemon into Pokemon Sword and Shield, only the ones that appear in the Galar Pokedex. I wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on this, but I also wanted sort of a view from a competitive standpoint. Being someone who does not do competitive literally at all, I decided to call upon a buddy of mine, Pimp Knight, as he does a lot of theme team battles here on YouTube, to help me in this.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So if you don't know about Pimp Knight, he's a large YouTuber and he does a lot of theme teams, but he does them very creatively. If he structures it around one concept, he's not going to pick the most overpowered, overused Pokemon that fit that genre. Instead, he likes to pick the underdogs?
Yeah, the underdogs.
The underused, the O-used, and the P-used.
Yeah, PUs mainly, yeah.
First, we want to get into why they said that they can't do it. And one of the main reasons they said was hardware reasons. And I quote, Pokemon are created in a much higher fidelity. They have higher quality animations, and in regard to the battle system, they wanted to keep everything balanced. They also stated that they want to give all of the Pokemon that appear in Pokemon Sword and Shield a chance to shine, with saying, we knew at some point we weren't going to be able to indefinitely keep supporting all Pokemon. This decision is personally sad. And of course, I wanted to be able to bring all Pokemon if I could. But it was also a decision that I had to make someday. In the end, I had no choice but to choose quality.
Where it says all the Pokemon that appear in Sword and Shield a chance to shine, the problem I have about that is, as some of the Pokemon are going to get cut right, how are the Pokemon that get left out that never got a chance to shine going to be able to shine in Pokemon Sword and Shield? It's kind of funny, don't you think?
Yeah.
Counterproductive could be the right word for it.
I mean, there is a good chance that they may do something like they did for X and Y Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, where a lot of Pokemon did not appear in Pokemon X and Y. However, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire literally complemented and then far surpassed the amount of catchable Pokemon with a lot of returning ones.
Absolutely.
I personally think that after Sword and Shield, for the next generation, Diamond Pearl Remix confirmed, that they're going to be having a lot of those Pokemon and the Pokemon that didn't get a chance to shine.
Yeah, I'd have to definitely agree with that one for sure, and definitely hopeful for that as well.
And it's not unlike the internet to be a little short-sighted to look at one small announcement about an upcoming game in a very long-running franchise and realize that the next one is going to even everything out.
Absolutely.
To be fair, the Pokemon do look a heck of a lot better. If you compare a Machoke in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon compared to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it does look a little bit better, mostly from the upscaling. But then when you look at it in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee into Sword and Shield, it looks so different. And by different, I mean he's the same Pokemon. However, so many details are done differently. If you look at his triceps, you see the shadows coming down because of the light into his armpit. The model of his chest is no longer just one big blanket butt-looking thing. Instead, it actually has some curvature there. On top of that, his belt is no longer just one flat surface. It's actually textured, all the way down to his quads, and then his toes are individually modeled. You can see from those little black lines down there, it looks really nice, as opposed to just that big gray mess of 5 little Diglets that you see in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
Absolutely, they look good.
It almost looks like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Machoke skip leg day.
Skip leg year, man. Not leg day.
And while yes, the team has had since Pokemon Sun and Moon came out to start working on Sword and Shield, because Ultra Sun and Moon was handled by a different team, right, Pimp?
Yes, that's right.
I think they were the people who did Oris.
I believe that too, yep.
Since that point, they then started on doing Pokemon Sword and Shield. And while everyone thinks, oh my god, they had 3 years to start working on these Pokemon, they probably didn't start the models right away. You need to come up with a story, you need to come up with the world, they needed to take all their big ideas they always wanted to do, like the wild area, and make that into something that works in the Pokemon engine, which has been a very limited sort of world that we've experienced. As we've seen in Boundary Break, in Pokemon X and Y, if you move the camera around, there's just nothing textured on the back. It's literally meant for one camera angle, that's it. Instead, this is their first time creating a full, rich, 3D world that we're going to be able to explore, kind of like in Breath of the Wild a little bit, just saying.
I was going to say, I did notice people were trying to compare Breath of the Wild graphics and those of Pokemon Sword and Shield, but, you know, this is the first game for them to do as I'd like a camera angle, you know, open world game, and you know, Breath of the Wild was in 4 years in the making, I believe. 7. Wow. Okay, 7. So there you go. There's a bit of a comparison. So I think they're doing a pretty good job in that era.
Plus, as we all know, the first game on a new platform is very safe. Also, the first game in a new generation is very safe. And then once we see all the amazing stuff that they did with the first game with polygons in X and Y, they then brought that into Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and that was fantastic. Have we seen something similar to this before? In Generation 6, Pokemon X and Y, which was released 10, 12, 13, or as Pimp Knight would say, 12, 10, 13, yes. There was no way to transfer Pokemon from Black 2 and White 2. Therefore, Pokemon Bank was released 4 months later in February of 2014. To compensate for that, they even announced Pokemon Bank more than a full year before the release date of X and Y. Pokemon X and Y had 721 Pokemon completely obtainable, and 649 of them were from Generation 5. They added like 30 Pokemon into that game, and on top of that, that was the first time that they did 3D polygons, so they had a fair amount of time to take all the Pokemon that they wanted and put them into 200p polygons, which, using Citra emulators, you've been able to take Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and other games and upscale them as high as 4K, and people think that that looks fine. There's still a lot of issues wrong with that, and they want to have that nice detail. Plus, now that we're going to be able to Dynomax Pokemon, they're going to be absolutely enormous. They're going to take up more than the entire screen. You're going to see every single little imperfection and detail, and they don't want you to see imperfections in the details.
Dynamaxing Wailord.
That's become a meme, but like, how big is Dynamaxing Wailord actually going to be?
Well, I'd say its fin will probably just be the stadium compared to like a Joltik, the smallest, tiniest Pokemon. It's probably going to be normal size. With the National Pokedex obviously not being in Sword and Shield as present, we actually do miss out on quite a few things, specifically due to ball combinations. And when I mean ball combinations, I mean like specific balls Pokemon can have and breed on. Also, we're going to miss out on certain shinies and Pokemon events that were exclusively back in, say, a Generation 3 game, and they may not be able to come over until they're allowed in the Galar decks.
When you said event legendaries, you were talking about, for example, when Sun and Moon came out, you got a Munchlax that had Hold Back, and that's the only time that Pokemon's ever known that move. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like Pokemon that were events that specifically had an event move, and you're only able to get that through there. How are you going to get it in the Galar decks if they're not in the Galar decks? Yeah. Also, Pokemon move breeders, specific moves passed down by Pokemon. If they're not in the Galar decks, you know, you won't be able to get moves on certain Pokemon, and also Gen 2 Virtual Console moves from Legendaries as well, and stuff like that.
Did the Generation 2 Legendaries have any moves that they don't have now that are good?
Not really good. I'm probably talking about on a whole, but yeah, that's probably more insignificant things than, you know, other Pokemon.
Zapdos doesn't get Gust anymore? Return!
Absolutely, man. Disgusted.
There's also one aspect that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit, and I know this doesn't pertain to everyone because the Pokemon games usually come out 3 to 12 weeks before the holiday season, mainly Christmas. Big fans of the Pokemon series are going to be getting the games day one. However, I'd say that there's a fair amount of people who are getting these games for Christmas. For all the people who get the Pokemon games early, you know, day of release, you get to play through the game a fair amount, almost 2 to 3 months before Pokemon Bank updates in the past, to be able to bring the Pokemon from the older generations. During that 2 to 3 month period, I'm not mad at it. From a non-competitive standpoint, I think it's fun. I think it's sort of eye-opening to think of the current limitations that you have of the generation. In fact, during the VGC 2017, which was for Sun and Moon, only Pokemon from the Alolan Pokedex, with some exceptions, were allowed in the game. And Pimp, this is out of my ball court. How do you feel about competitive back when Sun and Moon first came out, or any generation before Pokemon Bank updated?
I think it was pretty balanced back then. They usually exclude the mythicals, and I think it's pretty balanced for VGC. It's a little bit different for formats like Smogon, which actually have a tier-based system. That could work as well, instead of just, banning all the Pokemon or not excluding all the Pokemon over with the national decks as well. But hearsay each side of the argument, I guess. So I was thinking with them actually taking out the Z moves, right? Specifically moves that really didn't get a lot of spotlight, like, for example, Splash, may not be as good with the Dynomaxing moves in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So with Splash, you got like a +3 in attack, which actually enabled you to have some sweeping capabilities, whereas moves like that may not get those extra bonuses in the new games.
Splash became competitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't seen what Dynamaxing does too much for a lot of moves.
Yes.
What was it? Taunt and Growl that had the same Dynamaxing move.
Yes.
However, there might be some exceptions for that.
Hopefully they take those, those moves that didn't get a lot of spotlight into account and sort of like merge the Z moves into those moves, and hopefully, be good for competitive still.
I'm personally kind of upset we're not getting Megas.
Okay, if you guys have never watched my videos before, I'm not a huge fan of Mega Pokemon. I never really have been. I feel like I'm sort of this person, if you want to use a Pokemon, you should use it not if it's like just a Mega, right? But I'm actually upset they removed Megas out of the game too, because the Megas all have different stats and abilities, and they really added some extra stuff to the competitive scene and just casual play as well. I think it's like removing a real Pokemon and just like, Thanos snapping it.
Charmander and Charizard have always been my favorite Pokemon, and then for Charizard to officially finally become a dragon, that just made me happy.
Yeah, you got no worries, man. Charizard is definitely going to be in Sword and Shield.
Oh yeah, Charizard's confirmed. There have been people who are like, oh, there's a chance that Charizard and Charmander aren't going to be obtainable. And then they're like, you literally see them in the game.
Exactly.
So they have to be in the Pokedex because you have to be able to complete the Pokedex.
Yeah, I was sort of wondering how they went about picking the Pokemon, right? Because you see in the actual trailer, you see Golurk walking, right? Golurk, I wouldn't say is a super popular Pokemon. It might be a meme because it flies in Japan. Like, it might be like a meme over there. I'm not sure. But yeah, I wonder how they're going about actually choosing the Galar Pokemon, whether it's choice or random.
Golurk was in Detective Pikachu.
That could be why. I feel like the Dynamaxing, right, is a really like an appealing thing for Pokemon Go players. I almost seen the Pokemon Go, they sort of, I guess,
fan service.
Yeah, fan service basically, and they want to get them in, and that's cool. I really like that, but I hope they sort of keep all the core things that kept the core audience, just started the games off from the ground into the new games too, as well as bring in the new casual kind of audience.
Well, they've wanted to tie in Pokemon Go as early as Sun and Moon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's crazy.
They had those the ideas set up and everything. They just never implemented. I think because of the hardware.
The limited hardware.
And with a somewhat believable rumor that we've seen so far that has a lot of things on it correct, there is a rumor about something called Gigantamaxing, which is not only Pokemon becoming very large size. However, there are alternative forms of the Pokemon, including a very furry Meowth, also a fat Pikachu. So they may, in some way, have Megas in Gigantamaxing.
Maybe.
The statement of them removing Z moves and Megas was not definitive whatsoever. That was interpretation of a statement of a translation.
So Dynomax is actually a new way to power up your Pokemon in these games. It replaces what we've seen previously, for example, Mega Evolution and Z moves.
That can be interpreted a few ways. Number one, they're getting rid of both of them altogether permanently, or they'll bring them back in the future games. Is that how you see it, or?
I just see it as, hey, we're here to showcase this one thing, and it's awesome. Like the awesome thing that we did last generation, and the awesome thing we did the generation before that, that doesn't mean we're not including those things. We're just really showcasing this one off.
That's true too. And also, they've never actually really got rid of a mechanic in the game. They've always kept the past mechanics in the game and just sort of like added them to the next generation kind of thing.
Now, one of the things that I'm kinda hoping for Sword and Shield with the concept of Dynomaxing and max raid battles is that this game is gonna feel more like a live service game. You know what I mean about that, right, Pimp?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I get what you're putting down. Yeah.
I was thinking if they do decide to make it a live service game, kind of like Pokemon Go, new Pokemon may be rolled out in max raid battles. Maybe every...
Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. Yeah, I was actually going to say exactly the same thing as you were going to say then. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe every 2 weeks or so we have a new 20-ish Pokemon that could appear for you and your friends, and you can go up and battle them just like how you do in Pokemon Go.
I wouldn't mind that. They could just roll in like a X amount of Pokemon each, live update, and eventually we'd have them all in the decks. That'd be cool.
How they're going to do that with Pokemon that are not registered in the national decks and not just at one time have the national decks open, I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas here, and I think that's awesome.
They'd have to update home with the Sword and Shield, so those new 30 Pokemon, when it gets the live update, would be allowed to go from home onto Sword and Shield.
Yeah, well, home is already always connected to the internet anyways.
And I find it funny that you can send the Pokemon there that aren't in the Galar region, so they literally just stay in retirement home, sorry for the meme, until they're allowed to go onto the game or the next game. So I also found that funny that it's sort of like they had the idea that, okay, we may not put all the Pokemon in this game, or if we do, we'll slowly like roll them out by just keeping them on home until the moment arises.
They're basically saying, hey, we know you don't want to keep your 3DS anymore, so you can do this. However, Pokemon Home is still going to have trading functionality on the Switch and mobile, just not in Pokemon Sword and Shield, which I think being able to instantly trade my Pokemon from my Pokemon Bank to anyone else with Pokemon Bank is a heck of a lot easier than going through the convoluted way you would have to do that right now in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree with you there.
While we're still talking about Dynomaxing, of course, it's going to bring a brand new aspect to the game that is not only for fun U+3 co-op, but it's also going to be used in competitive 1v1. And I think that's going to be pretty awesome.
With the Dynomaxing, right, when I kind of compare it to Z-Move, so with the Dynomaxing, it lasts 3 turns, right? As stated in the trailer. Now, they're gonna have to do something about maybe to nerf it, because 3 turns seems like a very long time. So in comparison, when you use a Z-Move, it's normally a very powerful move, and once you've used it, that's it. You can only use it once in the entire battle. I don't think it'll be something like using 3 Z-Moves, because that just seems like really, really overpowered. They're gonna have to somehow nerf it some way or somehow. I'm not really sure.
From what we've seen in the demo on the E3 showroom floor, when you're in a gym battle, you're going to be able to Dynamax any Pokemon that you want. They also mentioned that when someone throws out a Dynamax Pokemon, you are then in the position of, do you feel the pressure and you need to bring out your own Dynamax Pokemon, or how you want to handle it? Keep in mind that the Dynamax Pokemon, their health is increased slightly, not like the max raid battles where they have that huge health meter.
For starters, we don't know all the information, but if you didn't want to bring your Dynomax Pokemon out right away, maybe you could stall out those 3 turns with like moves like Protect, Substitute, and then burn up their Dynamax move, and then when the coast is clear, send your own in to wreak havoc on the battle.
When you're on a 1v1 competitor online battle and you're battling against someone else and they Dynamax a Pokemon, you then feel the pressure if you also want to counter it with a Dynamax, or if you want to handle it a different way and store your Dynamax for later.
I think it's probably all about when you want to use it. So say if you want to get rid of a counter the other opponent's got, so the rest of your team is countered really hard by one Pokemon, you use your Dynamax then to get rid of them, and then maybe keep yours or in the back if they don't have any real solid counters to your team. Something along those lines. That's from the amounts of information we've been given already. When a Pokemon Dynamaxes, there are moves that are affected by weight and stuff like that. So we got moves like low kick, right? Since
Heavy Slam Wailord.
Heavy Slam Wailord, how can we forget that? And Grass Knot, right? There's also the ability Heavy Metal too. Do they have any effects on Dynomaxing? That's just something to think about as well.
I know that with your theme teams, as I mentioned before, you like to pick a lot of the underdogs.
Absolutely.
And not being able to choose about half of them, do you feel as though that's going to limit what you're going to be able to choose for your theme teams?
Absolutely, yeah. Usually in the first month or two, you really get a good feel for the new Pokemon, right? But then you want to bring back all the old Pokemon and supplement the new Pokemon in the teams and sort of try things out. Not only for me personally, but just for competitive battles, like something might have a really good ability and you think, oh, a Pokemon back from, 3rd gen is really going to work well with that. Oh, I can't bring it. It's not in the Galar decks. So things like that, yeah.
After Sun and Moon came out, didn't the VGC immediately turn to Gold Duck for some reason?
Yeah.
Double ducking?
Yeah, exactly. Just like stuff like that. The VGC will probably obviously have just the Galar Pokemon for the first one. Guess I don't know whether they're going to bring more Pokemon into it. They may allow the online service or wherever it will be and allow those Pokemon in the next rollout for whatever tournament, or they run some IC championships on the 3DS. Maybe they'll roll them into that.
There could be sort of like a branch here of, do you want to do competitive Swish or a competitive Awesome?
Yeah, exactly.
Swish is my sword shield.
Swish. Dude.
Sword shield for Awesome. Yeah.
Over here, Swish is sort of like when you throw a basketball and you get it through the hoop.
Same thing.
But you
here.
don't hit the sides.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't get lost in translation.
That's good. That's good.
I just hope that we start to see some of the mechanics from Let's Go brought into Sword and Shield. We've already seen Pokemon in the overworld, and we've seen sort of screenshots from it of being able to set up camp with your Pokemon.
Yeah, and that whistling mechanic too.
Yeah, I don't know if that's for more common Pokemon or rarer Pokemon, or how we're going to shiny hunt for Pokemon.
I feel like we're going to be shiny hunting in the wild areas. That's going to be like and then using the whistle. Got a little gut feeling about that.
Yeah, I mean, if they have the Pokemon in the overworld, it's not too much to do the palette swap and then throw little shiny particles on
Absolutely. I still like the fact, though, they left Pokemon... there's going to be Pokemon on the overworld, but some still hidden in the grass, too. I really like how they did that. So they sort of kept the old stuff and introduced the, stuff from Let's Go and Pokemon Go. I think that's a good little balance there.
Yeah, are we going to do random encounters or are we going to do overworld Pokemon? Screw it, why not both?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Like, I know some people really like the encounters in the grass where they didn't know what they were going to get, and then people really like the the Charizard and Dragonite flying in the sky, and they're like, damn, I don't want any hidden encounters, they just want that. So it's a good medium there for both.
Your personal choice?
I still like the wonder of finding a Pokemon that have been eluding me for like an hour, but I do appreciate the Pokemon flying above the grass too.
And I hope you're going to be able to just hit the Y button to access all of your Pokemon.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
However, not being able to do it in some places. Oh no, like even in the middle of a gym, that's fine because you can just talk to the person at the entrance. They heal your Pokemon. So
yeah,
okay, just not in the Elite Four or whatever you need to do to become champion. That's the only time you can't do it. So guys, this is what myself and Pimp Knight think as far as all the Pokemon not being brought back. I'm personally not too mad at it.
I'm a little bit disappointed that I cannot bring my Pokemon there to begin with, but I've got high hopes that somehow all those Pokemon or in the future games will be introduced later on, whether it be means of live updates or just another game in general. But I'm definitely not going to let it ruin my experience for Pokemon Sword and Shield.
We want to know what you think. Leave a comment down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. I'm going to have a link to Pimp Knight's channel up on the screen as well. Be sure to check him out if you want to see some awesome Wi-Fi battles and sweep videos. I want to thank you for coming on my talk show here, talking about Pokemon.
Thank you very much for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
And guys, till next time, Austin John out.
Peace out.